I've really been trying to bake more fresh bread and get away from the store-bought bread loaves. Today in the kitchen, I'm making some fresh homemade yeast bread loaves. It is a super simple recipe that takes about an hour of preparation. I also created a recipe card for you all to screenshot that I'll include in the video. We picked up our raw milk on Tuesday and I got some fresh cream, so we're gonna make some more grass-fed butter. And me and Jackson got out and created a little bouquet to bring inside. So come on in and we'll share what the Bluegrass family has been up to this week. I have baked these loaves a few times now and I have fallen in love with how delicious they turn out to be. They are so easy and fairly quick to make, so I've been trying to plan ahead and bake more of our bread from scratch. This recipe calls for 5 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 cups of warm water, and 1/4 cup of cooking oil. You do reserve 1 cup of the flour for the final kneading of the bread. As you start to knead your bread, you slowly add in the last cup of flour until your dough isn't super sticky anymore. It'll be a little bit sticky, but it won't be so sticky. Once you have incorporated your final cup of flour, like I did with this wooden spoon, you can start to kind of mix that final cup of flour in and then use your hands to knead it around, fold it around. I didn't overdo it. It says to knead for 5 minutes, but I honestly just kind of massaged that last cup of flour into the dough. Once I was finished doing that, you dampen a tea towel and place it over the top of your bread while it's still in the bowl, and you allow it to rise for 30 minutes. So once I finished that, I set a timer and allowed it to rise for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, you can dust a work surface with flour and punch down your dough, then dump it out onto your floured surface. I like to add a little more flour if I feel like it's still a bit wet or sticky, and it was, so I added a tad into it during this process. I fold it into itself several different times, and then I divide it in half. I do a final shaping and I place the dough into the greased loaf pans, and I just grease my loaf pans with Crisco or leftover bacon grease or olive oil, just anything like that. You could also use butter. You will then allow your dough to rise for another 30 minutes inside of your loaf pans, or until the dough reaches the edge of the loaf pan. So whichever comes first. If it's reaching the top of your loaf pan before 30 minutes, you could go ahead and place it in your oven. But for me, I just feel like it's about 30 minutes before mine actually reaches a full peak. And then I place it into the oven at 400 degrees for 40 minutes. I went ahead and created a recipe card. If you all are interested in making this homemade yeast bread loaf yourself, that way you can screenshot it here in a few seconds when it pops up. I just wanted to let you all know so you can be ready for it. And that way, if you want to make it, you can easily have access to the recipe. And please, if you do, come back and comment and tell me how it turned out for you all. The very final step in this process of making your own bread is to dampen a tea towel and wrap your hot loaf of bread as soon as it comes out of the oven with a damp towel, and that helps to really soften your bread and give you a nice crust that isn't too hard to cut, and it just makes it so much easier if you're going to use it for sandwiches and for slicing. I left my bread wrapped in the towels for about 30 minutes before I went ahead and sliced it. That way you all know just how long I actually let it sit there and sweat out a bit, and it was really soft for me, super easy to slice, and so moist and delicious. Our backyard flowers are blooming, so we have some fresh lilac that is so fragrant, and I love cutting it and bringing it inside with the freshly made bouquet. So me and Jackson got outside and we just kind of found some different flowers around the yard that were blooming, some hydrangeas and the lilacs, and then we also found some of our mint. So we have some like fresh chocolate mint that we got, and so we just put it all together and kind of made a little tiny bouquet in our mason jar, and we brought that inside and we've just enjoyed having it, and it smells so beautiful. A few years ago, I switched over from the regular cooking pans to just using cast iron skillets. We have several different cast iron skillets that we have collected over the years, and taking care of them can kind of be tricky if you're not used to cooking with them. So what you do to clean the cast iron skillet is just take steel wool and you just wash it out, and you don't use any soap at all. Not for cast iron skillet. And then you can sit it on your stove top and add a little bit of cooking oil, whether you have bacon grease or olive oil or vegetable oil, and you let it heat up just a little bit and take a paper towel and rub all around the inside of it. I've always just stacked my cast iron skillets up and placed them in my oven for easy storage because they are really heavy, and it's just easier to get them in and out of my oven. We pick up our milk on Tuesdays, and so I am trying to take full advantage of being able to get fresh cream right now. I was able to get a half gallon of fresh cream this week, and so I decided to make a really big batch of homemade raw grass-fed butter. It is so delicious, and I have another video where I walk you all through the entire process. This is just the same process that I did in that video, and I had a little bit more butter this time because, like I said, I had an entire half gallon. So like I said, you pour it into the cheesecloth once it goes through its whipping phase and it turns into and separates the curds and the buttermilk. You pour it into the cheesecloth and you strain all of the buttermilk out, and you can save your buttermilk to use for biscuits or other things you want to cook with. And then you just dunk your butter into ice cold water and cleanse it, and that is how you get your homemade grass-fed butter. I couldn't have fresh bread loaves without some fresh butter, so that's why I decided to include it into this video in case you do decide to make those bread loaves and you want to try to make some of your own butter. Like I said, y'all let me know if you decide to make these homemade yeast bread loaves, and if you do make them, let me know how they turn out for you and if you and your family enjoy them. We're so thankful that you all are here with us, and thanks for sticking around. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. We have many more coming your way. Have a great day.